misdiagnoses and eclipses the academic opportunities for black children and especially black boys. What am I talking about? In special education, we have 13 diagnoses, 13 disabilities. What are they? Speech and language impairment, deafness, hearing impairment, blindness, brain injury, orthopedic impairment, autism, learning disability, emotional disturbance, other health impairment, and the list goes on. But when I say that special education is a weapon of mass destruction against black boys, I'm talking about 4 specific disabilities. I'm talking about the learning disability. I'm talking about the emotional disturbance. I'm talking about intellectual disability. And I'm talking about other health impairment, OHI. Let me explain OHI for you all. ADHD, and we're going to do a whole segment on ADHD if I can keep from talking about it in this first segment. ADHD is not a special ed disability. Let me say it again. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not a special education disability. So you may ask yourself, if ADHD is not a special education disability, why is my son in special education for ADHD? I'll tell you why. Because one of the 13 special education disabilities is known as other health impairment. Other health impairment, OHI. That is a category for children with medical problems that can affect how well they learn in school. Let me say it again. OHI is one of the 13 special education disabilities. It is a category for children with medical problems that affects how well they learn. Let me give you an example. Your daughter has epilepsy. She has seizures. Seizures affect the part of the brain responsible for memory. When she has seizures, she can be out of school for a week. She's missing classwork, she's missing homework, she's falling behind. Because her seizures are affecting her ability to succeed in school, she can be placed into special education as a child with a other health impairment for epilepsy. Now let's go to ADHD. Your son has ain't no daddy at home disorder. Come on. Let me say it again. ADHD is ain't no daddy at home disorder. Let me say it again. ADHD means ain't no daddy at home disorder. Now you might say, well, my daddy's home. Okay. Then it ain't no discipline at home disorder. Well, the daddy's home and there's discipline. Okay. Then it's an artificial diet at home. Sugar, caffeine, high fructose corn syrup, right? And then you might say, the daddy's at home, we have discipline, and we vegan, vegetarian, we don't do sugar, caffeine, or fructose. Then there's only one more. Attachment disruption due to home life dysfunction. What is attachment disruption due to home life dysfunction? That's a boy who goes to school and misbehaves because his father's in jail when he don't get to see him. That's a boy that goes to school and can't pay attention because his parents might be chemically addicted. And because of that, there's problems at home. Or maybe he's being sexually abused or physically abused or verbally abused. Or maybe the mother doing the best she can, but they have to move from house to house, or maybe even they're homeless. What is the point? My point is, what is often called ADHD What is often called ADHD is a family life situation or personal emotional situation or personal psychological issue disguised as a behavior problem. Did y'all hear what I just said? So the problem becomes when mothers and fathers go to the school looking for an evaluation. In Hempstead, let me be clear, I don't want black parents in Hempstead looking for special ed evaluations. I don't want black parents in Long Island looking for ADHD evaluations. I don't want you looking for learning disability evaluations. I don't want you looking for conduct disorder evaluations. I don't want you looking for oppositional defiant disorder evaluations. Why not? If my child has a problem, why is Dr. Umar saying I shouldn't get him evaluated? If my son is having emotional problems and learning problems, why is Dr. Umar telling me that I should not get an evaluation? Or the white folks at the local school says I should get Raheem evaluated. The counselor at my daughter's school said, why not get her evaluated? So Dr. Umar, why are you telling us that we shouldn't get our children some help? Why are you telling us we shouldn't get our children some help when they have learning problems and behavior problems? I'll tell you why. Because you can go and get them some help and they're going to end up being helpless. They're going to end up being helpless. I've been in special education over 20 years. I'm a certified school psychologist. Do you know what that means? That means I'm the one that evaluates your child. I'm the one. I'm the one that gives the IQ test. I'm the one. I'm the one that gives the reading test. I'm the one. I'm the one that gives the emotional assessment, the psychological assessment, the adaptive behavior assessment. I'm the one that does the testing. So why is one of the only black male school psychologists in America, why is one of the only black male school psychologists in America telling me that I shouldn't get my child some help? I'm going to tell you why. Special education is the reason why so many black men in jail today. Special education is one of the reasons why so many black men in jail today. What is the average reading level of a black man in New York prisons? What is the average reading level of a black man in New York State prisons? 4th grade. 4th grade. Even if he has a diploma. Even if he has a diploma, the average reading level of a black man in New York City prison is 4th grade. You know why it's 4th grade? What grade was he in when he got tested for special education? 4th grade, or 3rd grade, or 2nd grade. And for the life of me, why are you getting 5, 6, and 7-year-old children evaluated by white people for learning disabilities and ADHD? I'm gonna ask the question again. Why are black people taking black children to white people, asking the same people that solved it, that created their problems, to solve their problems? Help me out, I'm missing something. Why are you going to white folks talking about Raheem can't sit still? I'll tell you why Raheem can't sit still. Because the white teacher teaching Raheem don't really care to be there in the first place, and he knows it. You want another reason? I'll give you another reason. The curriculum and the instruction and the lesson plans that are being used to teach Raheem are so outdated, so boring, so disinteresting, and so irrelevant to his life that he can't pay attention if he tried.
Come on.
You want another reason why Raheem can't sit still? Because he goes to a school in Hempstead, or Bronx, or Brooklyn, or Rochester, Syracuse, okay? Or Harlem and Queens, where they can't go outside after lunch and run off some of that natural black male energy. Let me say it again, because the white man telling you being hyper is unnatural. Who has raised a black boy knows that all black boys have natural, God-given African energy. Do we not? Yes. That's who we are. Now all of a sudden it's a disease. How can being hyper be a disease? All boys are hyper. White, Chinese, Arab, Mexican, East Indian, they are all hyper, but because the black boy is considered a problem, he gets labeled out and demonized for it. He goes to a school with no recess. He probably goes to a school with no gymnasium. He might go to a school with no backyard. So let me get this right. Your son, full of natural God-given energy, goes to a school without a backyard, goes to a school with no gym, goes to a school with no recess, goes to a school with no physical activity or stimulation whatsoever, and because he can't sit still, he has a disease. You know what the problem is here? A school system that was never designed to properly educate your child in the first place. That's what this is really about. Do you really think we would have this many black boys diagnosed with ADHD if the teachers were not white? There was a research study that came out last month. They said when black children have black teachers, this just came out last month. When black children have black teachers, they're more likely to graduate. Duh. When black children have black teachers, they're less likely to be expelled from school. Duh. When black children have black teachers, they're less likely to end up in special ed or on psychiatric medications. And we're going to deal with psychiatric medications in the next segment. Because some of y'all got my little brothers hooked up on every type of pill they got. He taking Ritalin. He taking Adderall. He taking Concerta. He taking Metadate. He got Vyvanse. He's on Prozac. He's on Paxil. He's on Risperdal. He's on Depakote. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 3 pills a day. And can I ask you a question? His father's in jail for selling what? Crack. Wait a minute now. His father's in jail right now doing 10 years for selling crack. So can somebody explain to me, if his father's in jail for selling crack, how is it that his son can take that crack so he can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus, Helen Keller, and Anne Frank? If drugs are bad, brothers and sisters, if drugs are bad, shouldn't it be equally as bad for your son to take crack as it is for his father to sell it? Yes. So why does the father go to jail for selling it, but the son can take it in order to go to school? Ritalin is synthesized cocaine. Concerta is synthesized cocaine. Metadate is synthesized cocaine. If you don't believe me, do your own research. The Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States government classifies Ritalin as a Schedule B drug. That means Ritalin is in the same category as cocaine and opium. If you don't believe me, when you go home, Google DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and you will see Ritalin in the same category as cocaine and opium. Controlled substances with high addiction capability. So if your son been taking Ritalin since kindergarten, 5 milligrams, 3rd grade, 7 milligrams, 5th grade, 9 milligrams, 9th grade, 10 to 12 milligrams. He used to getting high because public school introduced him to being a drug addict. What is he going to do when he becomes an adult and no longer get the free crack from public assistance? He's going to start using crack on the streets. You don't have to believe me. The American Medical Association, because y'all don't believe black folks, let me get some white statistics. See, when I say it, oh no, he's just extreme. He's a radical. He's one of them Garveyites. Well, let me tell you what the white folks said. The American Medical Association says that Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, and other childhood medications are gateway drugs. Gateway drugs to later substance abuse in life. That's not me, that's the government in the AMA. So let me go back to special education. The reason I don't want you getting your children evaluated for learning disabilities, the reason I don't want you getting your children evaluated for learning disabilities is because you cannot prove that they exist.
My Lord.
I hope every mother is listening. I hope every father is listening. I hope every big brother, big sister, auntie, and uncle, foster mom, adoptive mom, foster dad, adoptive dad, parent advocate, social worker, school nurse. I hope everyone's listening. I'm going to say it again. You cannot prove a learning disability. Let me say it again. You cannot prove ADHD. Let me say it again. You cannot prove an emotional disturbance. Let me say it again. You cannot prove conduct disorder. They are nothing more than professional opinions. Oh, yes. Some of y'all sitting there like, wait a minute, Dr. Umar, my son been taking Ritalin for 5 years. He got ADHD. He gets reevaluated every year. They keep saying he got it. He's on drugs for ADHD. He's in special ed for ADHD. What should I do? I'm hearing you, brother, but my son already got caught up. You should have came to Hempstead 5 years ago. What do you want me to do? This is what we're going to do. What grade is he in? 5th? Do you believe 6th grade? So we got a real case. Do you believe he needs a special class in order to learn? No. That means it was illegal to give him an IEP in the first place. And what is an IEP? IEP stands for Individual Education Program. Every child in the United States in special education has an IEP, Individual Education Program. What is an IEP? It is the curriculum for the disabled student in the disabled area. I repeat, it is the curriculum for the disabled student in the disabled skill area. If your son has a reading disability, he got a reading IEP. If your daughter got a math disability, she got a math IEP. So here's the question I have for my ADHD mom. Special ed is for learning problems, right? If special ed is for learning problems and your son don't have a problem learning, why is he in there? You're going to say, because he has ADHD. But that is not a legally sufficient answer. Let me tell you why. In order to put a child in special ed for any of the 13 disabilities, you have to answer 2 questions, yes. Question number 1, does this child have a disability? ADHD. It's not real. He don't really have it. But on paper, the white man says he got ain't no daddy at home disorder. So yes. Question number 2. Does he need special ed in order to learn? Do you think your son need to be in that special class to learn? Of course not. You see that? So legally, your son's school broke the law because the United States federal government says unless he cannot learn in the regular class, he cannot be in the special one. I hope y'all listen, and I want to repeat that. If he can learn in the regular class, it is illegal for him to be in the special class. Let me say it one more time. If he can learn in the regular class, it is illegal for him to be in the special class. Are you following me? How many years has he been in special ed? How many? 2 years. Okay. So this is good. I'm glad I caught you after 2 years, because you know what? I normally catch parents after 10 years of special ed. You follow me? So far gone that it's going to be hard to fix this situation. Your son only been in special ed 2 years for ADHD. What grade was he in when he was diagnosed with ADHD? Say again. Did y'all hear that? Her son was diagnosed with ADHD in kindergarten. Now, let's talk about the criteria for ADHD. These are the criteria, some of them, okay? You ready? I want everybody to listen. These are the criteria to diagnose ADHD. Cannot sit still, cannot play quietly, loses things necessary to get his work done, acts like he's driven by a motor, blurts out answers, interrupts other people when they are talking, taps with his hands or feet, loses things necessary to get his work done. Can I ask you all a question? Does that sound like a disease or a regular boy?
Regular boy.
I just gave you half the criteria for ADHD. Now, your son was in kindergarten. Every boy in kindergarten got ADHD. You follow me? So if I spoke with you back then, I would have said, you never let a kindergartner get evaluated, right? I'm too late for you, but I'm not too late for a lot of other mothers and fathers out here, so let me say it. Never, ever get a kindergartner, first grader, or second grader evaluated for ADHD or a learning disability because they do not exist. Got me? I want to stay on your case. He's in what grade now? Second? Third? He's going to the second. Oh, this is real good. So all you got to do to get him out of special ed, guess what I want you to do? I want you to write a letter to the principal of We Hate Black Boys Elementary School in Hempstead, okay? And I want you to tell the principal of We Hate Black Boys Elementary School that I'm requesting an IEP meeting to talk about my son's placement. Now, the IEP team got 3 jobs. They create the learning curriculum, that's the IEP. They decide where the child is going to receive their special ed help, right? And they also must make sure the child is making progress, okay? You have a placement issue. You don't want your son in a special class no more, correct? So you're going to write a letter and say, I would like to have an IEP meeting to talk about my son Raheem's special ed placement. And then you're going to go to the IEP meeting. And when you go to the IEP meeting, you are not going to go by yourself. Hempstead, never go to a school meeting by yourself. New York, stop going to the schools by yourself. Always take another adult with you. Brother, sister, another parent. Don't go by yourself, especially my mothers. Black mothers, don't you ever go to a school in Hempstead by yourself again. Why am I saying that? Because I can tell you, as both a school psychologist and a school principal, that they love to gang up on black parents who don't have no support. Let me say it again. They love to gang up on black parents who don't have any support. So, you take somebody with you, and one of the people you take with you should be writing the whole time. Notes. You can't take notes because you have to carry the conversation, but you're going to tell your sister, write down anything they say that sounds like it's illegal. Okay, y'all got me? Write down everything they say that sounds like it's illegal. And the reason you're going to write down everything they say that sounds like it's illegal, because whenever you leave a meeting, within 48 hours, after every school meeting, Hempstead, within 48 hours, you always send a what? Summary letter of the meeting. This is another reason why I need my black mothers to stop yelling, cursing, flipping out, beating up teachers. Don't do none of that. You get them back with the letter that you write afterwards. Because you're going to write a letter to the principal after the meeting, and you're going to talk about in that letter how they treated you or mistreated you, how they didn't give you enough time to even talk about your concerns. And if you want to, we're going to carbon copy that letter to the superintendent, to chair of the school board, the New York Chancellor of Education, and let your boss know that you're not respecting my right to an IEP meeting. And when you go to the meeting, you're going to tell them, I want my son out of special ed today. And they're going to say, well, I think we should think about this. And you're going to say, we don't need to think about nothing. I'm his mother, and I want him out now. And they're going to say, I think we should think about this. And then you're going to say, are you refusing my request to exit my son from special education? Are you refusing my request to exit my son from special ed today? And if they say yes, which they probably won't because that's illegal, you're going to say, can you please give me a letter? You can write it by hand that says you are refusing my request to exit my child from special ed. Make them sign it, make them date it. If they're smart, they won't give it to you. Because now you're going to take that to the superintendent and show that the school principal is violating your right to exit your child from special ed when you feel like it. Did everybody just hear that? Nobody here with a child in special ed has to stay there. They are there because you co-sign it. It is your fault. Your child is in special ed because you leaving him in special ed. Now, we're not done yet because they owe you some money. Have you ever heard of something called compensatory education? I want all y'all to write down, if you're writing, compensatory education. I want you to know what this is. Compensatory education is when you put a child in special education who should have never been there. A lot of y'all got kids in special ed who should have never been there. Your son diagnosed with a learning disability, he should have never had that. Your daughter diagnosed with a math disability, she should have never had that. Your son diagnosed with emotional disturbance, mentally retarded, and we're going to talk about the IQ test in a minute. We're going to talk about the IQ test in a minute. So let me tell you what compensatory ed means. Your son should have never been put in special ed because he don't have a problem learning, right? They broke the law, so they're already in trouble. Number two, okay, because he shouldn't have been in special ed, they have to pay your son restitution and damages for the fact that he was in special ed for 2 years illegally. You follow me? So at the IEP meeting, you're going to bring up, after they exit him, okay, we're going to let you take your son out. Sign here. He'll start in the regular class tomorrow. And then you're going to say, we got something else to talk about before we're done. And they're going to say, what is it? And you're going to say, y'all owe my son compensatory education. First of all, they're going to look at you like you're crazy because you're not supposed to know that. Okay? And they're going to say, excuse me? And you're going to say, you have to pay for my son to get extra tutoring, help, and counseling to rectify the problem you created by putting him in special ed for 2 years when he did not need to be. Are y'all following me? Okay? Now, special education is money, right, Long Island? Whenever I put a kid in special ed, the school gets what? Money. This is about money, baby. This ain't about helping nobody learn how to read. This ain't about helping nobody learn how to count. This ain't about helping nobody deal with behavior. This ain't about helping the autistic kids communicate. This ain't about helping the blind kids read with Braille. This ain't about helping the deaf kids. Hell no. Special ed is about one thing: making that money. So let me tell you how this works. Albany is the state capital of New York, right? So the State Department of Education is in Albany. So let's say Dr. Umar works for Hempstead Public Schools. Now I'm in Philadelphia, right? But let's say I work in Hempstead. Special ed is national, so it don't matter where you live. I evaluate your son. I diagnose your son. I put his name in a computer. The computer sends his name to Albany. And by the end of the month, Hempstead Public Schools get a welfare check for special educating your child. In other words, a child in special ed is worth twice as much as a child in regular ed. Let me say it again. A child in special ed is worth twice as much as a child in regular ed. Let me say it one more time. A child in special ed is worth twice as much money as a child in regular ed. So if you wonder why Wait a minute, I smell some damn barbecue. Whoa, whoa, who got them barbecue ribs? Yo, fam, put Dr. Umar plate to the side. No pork, no pork. You got barbecue ribs? I need that. You feel me? My Nation of Islam brothers say they want some ribs too. You know they not doing no pork. We need them beef ribs. I can smell it. All right. Let me keep on going. Where was I at? Man, the rib sauce got me. I had an ADHD moment. Where was I at? They worth twice as much. So let's say in Hempstead public schools, let's say they spend $9,000 per child in Hempstead, right? Hypothetically. Does anybody know how much they spend per child in Hempstead, regular ed? It's about $9,000. What they spend? $15,000. Whoa! So do you know how much the special ed kids are worth? That means in Hempstead, a special ed kid is worth a whole salary. 30 grand. So if you wonder why they don't want to let black boys out of special ed in Hempstead, now you know why. Because if the regular ed is 15, the special ed is almost $30,000 a child, and they get that extra 15 every single year. Your child is in special ed second grade, they get an extra 15 for third, an extra 15 for fourth, an extra 15 for fifth, an extra 15 for sixth, an extra 15 for seventh, an extra 15 for eighth, and an extra 15 for ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th. How much is 15,000 times 10? $150,000 for how many kids? One. So can I ask you a question? If one black boy in Hempstead is worth $150,000 extra, we're not talking about the regular ed money. We talking about extra. If one black boy in Hempstead is worth $150,000 extra, how much are 10 of them worth? How much are 100 of them worth? How much are 1,000 of them worth? In fact, if I go into any elementary school right around here, how many black boys have an IEP? And we can times that by $15,000, and now you see how much money they hustling off the misdiagnosis of black boys. But I want to go somewhere else. You know where I want to go with it? I want to go back to y'all. I don't blame none of you for not knowing, because there's no way you can know what I know. I live this for a living, right? You don't evaluate, I do. You're not a principal, I am. You're not a school psychologist, I am. You're not a doctor of psychology, I am. I don't expect you to know what I know, but guess what I do expect? I expect you to care enough about your child to ask a few extra questions. I expect you all to care enough about your child to ask a few extra questions. What type of questions, Dr. Johnson? Let me give you a couple. We think Raheem has a reading problem. He's in the 5th grade reading on the 3rd grade level. Your son is 2 grades behind. Will you please sign this paper so we can evaluate him for special education? Most of y'all will take out the ink pen. Keep the ink pen in your pocketbook, because it's time to ask some questions. So are you telling me that just because my son is behind, that means he has a disability? Children are behind all over the place. There's kids in every school that are behind grade level. Just because my son is behind, why does that mean he's disabled? Are y'all following me? Stop letting the public school make you think that a deficiency is a disability. Stop letting the public school make you think that a deficiency is a disability. Stop letting the public school make you think that a delay is a disability. How many of you had kids who didn't start crawling at the right time, but they did start crawling? How many of y'all had children who didn't start talking at the right time, but they still start talking? How many of you had children didn't start walking at the right time, but they did start walking? Well, guess what I can tell you? Only 15% of children will master reading skill the first time they're taught it. Only 15% of children will learn how to read without struggling. More than 50% of all children will struggle learning how to read. Who told you that your child needed special ed just because they struggling a little bit? Last time I checked, we got ancestors who taught themselves how to read during slavery. So help me understand how my ancestor, Frederick Douglass, could teach himself how to read 200 years ago. No special ed, no public schools. Hell, we wasn't even considered human beings yet. You could go to jail, get killed, get your fingers cut off for being caught with a book as an enslaved African. But you got all these enslaved Africans who taught themselves how to read, and now we in Hempstead 2019 and your son got a reading disability. If you don't get the hell out of here, you know what your son got? He got a lazy disability. Oh yes. Oh yes. He got a L-A-Z-Y, lazy disability. Oh yeah. It's real quiet now. It's real quiet now. I've evaluated thousands of kids, right? And guess what most of them had? The lazy disability. I go right back to their parents. I go right back to the principal. I go right back to the special ed coordinator. I go right back to the school social worker. I go right back to the school nurse. I go right back to the school counselor. And the only thing wrong with this boy is he don't care enough to try his best. See, we got a problem in the black community where most of our sons are going to be football players. Or so they think. They're going to be basketball players. Or so they think. And unfortunately, we reinforce sports and entertainment above academics and professional achievement. That's right. That's right. I know it for a fact. I know it for a fact. If I go to any one of these schools, I bet you the best football player got pictures all over the place. Probably flunk in every class. But he can shoot that ball, he can catch that ball, and then all the kids making A's and B's, you don't even know their name. That's right, because the black community socializes its men for physical exploitation by white corporations. Let me say it again. I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say it again. The black community socializes its boys so they can be physically exploited by white commercial capitalism. In other words, your house is a slave pen. You raise slaves, and when they old enough and big enough and strong enough, you take them out to be sold on the auction. But you don't take them to the white man with the whip no more. You take them to the white man holding the football. You take them to the white man holding the basketball. That's right. The NFL operates just like the slave auction. What they call it? The lottery. There ain't no damn lottery. That's the auction. Which one of these niggers you want? He's 7'1", 300 pounds. He's a Wake Forest nigger. Which one you want? We got Zion Williams, 280. Baby Charles Barkley from the Blue Devils. How much you want for him? Y'all heard what happened to LeBron James last week, and I like LeBron, by the way. He speak up more than Mike and Kobe put together, so I gotta respect that. LeBron James said he was gonna give Anthony Davis number 23. LeBron said, brother, I'm gonna give you your number. We both can't wear it. To show solidarity, I'm gonna give my young brother number 23. Nike called him up yesterday. See, we talk about the auction block. Because y'all think Negroes with money got power. You're dead wrong. You're dead wrong if you think a Negro with money got power. Nike told LeBron, who gave you permission? Go on the internet and look it up. Who gave you permission to give away that number we branded on your back. Nike told LeBron, you cannot give that number away because we have invested too much in you and too much in it. So now Anthony Davis is just going to be number 3 instead of 23.
Wow.
Rich blacks are not powerful. Rich blacks are scared. You know why? Because they recognize how the system operates and they know it ain't fair. And because most of them are more in love with being famous than helping free you, they'll do whatever they got to do in order to stay in the good graces of their slave master. But guess what? You can do it all. And when they decide they done with you, they done with you. You don't believe me? Come on down to Philadelphia. Let's go talk to Bill Cosby. Look what they did to Bill Cosby. The #1 black television star, America's dad. I mean, this is the man who paved the way for Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby. This is a black man who made white folks laugh for a living. Jello, Pudding Pops, Fat Albert. But Bill Cosby forgot the golden rule. We will make you rich. We will give you money. But don't you ever think for 1 minute that we will ever forget that you are black. And Bill Cosby took concert with white females. Like a lot of you brothers do, but I ain't gonna get into that today. That's another conversation. All right? No disrespect to our white visitors at all. But Bill Cosby wanted to buy a major network. Remember, they killed his son about 20 years ago when he tried to buy a major network before. They said, nah, brother, we don't give black people TV stations. We'll give you a show. You could do Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We give you Martin. We'll give you Housewives of Atlanta. But we ain't giving you no network. We don't let black folks get no network. Nah, we don't do that. Bill Cosby said, I'm going to get me a network. Killed his son on the side of the road, fixing the flat. Bill Cosby comes back around, says, nah, I'm getting old. I got to do this before I die. I want to be the first black man to say he owned a major network. The Oprah Winfrey Network is not a major. In fact, Oprah Winfrey was losing, what, $1 million a day? She called Tyler Perry to come do some Medea shows and save him. Because y'all love to see black men in skirts. Medea work every time. Somebody asked Tyler Perry, can you please do something other than Medea? And Tyler Perry said, why? They gonna buy them tickets? Because black folks love to see black men in skirts. That's another conversation. So Tyler Perry is helping Oprah Winfrey stabilize her network because when she left the majors and started the Oprah Winfrey Network and had a nerve to call it OWN, OWN. I own my own. The white folks said, oh, hell no, you don't. And they started sabotaging Oprah. And we could have saved Oprah, but Oprah, like all rich blacks know, the #1 sin that a rich black can commit is to accuse white folks of racism. So Oprah would not dare say that the other white networks are sabotaging me, because that would have messed her relation, because rich blacks are not allowed to recognize racism. So Oprah had to keep it to herself and go get Tyler Perry to do some Medea shows to save her network. So Bill Cosby tried to buy that network and he started taking concert with white women, and the power structure called up those white women. 40 white women, all at the same time. How in the hell can 40 white women at the same time come forward and say he harassed me? Now don't get me wrong, I don't trivialize sexual violence. Especially not because black women are most likely to suffer it. 1 out of every 4 black women will be molested or raped in her life. And guess what? The perpetrator will almost never be convicted and held accountable. So we don't trivialize sexual violence. But I'm gonna tell you what I will trivialize. Bill Cosby, the #1 black TV star in the world, sexually harasses you. Not in 2018, not in 2008, not 1998, not 1988, not even 1978. He harassed you in 1974, 45 years ago. And you waited 45 years to tell the world that the #1 black TV star at that time harassed you. What black man in here thinks that a white woman gonna wait 45 years to tell on you? And then when Bill Cosby was convicted, what was so sad, I read the record, I didn't even know, because this is how the media lies. I thought Bill Cosby actually raped her. He didn't. He was convicted for the same thing Tupac was convicted for, illegal touching and massaging. There was no intercourse. None. Don't get me wrong. Touching a woman's person is still a major violation. Don't get me wrong. But don't call that rape if all he did was touch her. And then they said, well, he provided pills. Excuse me, do you know anything about Hollywood? Everybody does pills and sex. That's what you do in Hollywood. What you making Bill Cosby special for? I know some brothers in the prison with Bill Cosby. You know he legally blind, y'all. It take 2 guards. He got to go to the bathroom with 2 guards. He got to go eat with 2 guards. He got to go out in the yard with 2 guards. 2 guards got to help him undress and get dressed. He can't even see, y'all. Bill Cosby, one of our top black entertainers, reduced to nothing because being famous doesn't mean you got power. Now, some of you might say, well, how can I be famous and powerful, Doc? Real simple. You have to be a self-made man or woman. Bill Cosby worked hard, but everything he got through the white entertainment system. LeBron James worked hard, but everything he got through the white athletic system. See, the difference is whether you made yourself independently or whether they made you. Because if they made you, they will control you. They can break you. If it was up to me, NFL would be outlawed. If it was up to me, it would be no more NBA because it's not benefiting the black community. You don't marry black women. You don't live in the black community. You don't hire black people. I mean, what good is the NFL and NBA? What good is it? You drive around the neighborhood 50 times so everybody can see you got a bench, you got sign, and you don't come back to help nobody get where you at. Now let's get back to the education. Special ed is money. Let's get back to the questions. You want me to get my 5th grader evaluated because he's reading 2 grades behind. Aren't most kids in Hempstead reading 2 grades behind? Aren't most black kids in Philadelphia reading 2 grades behind? Did you know that most of our children are 2 grades behind in the major cities? So if all the black children are 2 grades behind, why are you singling out my son for special ed? This should be an intervention for the whole school, an intervention for the whole grade, an intervention for the whole class. Furthermore, I'm gonna drop another bomb on y'all. Have you ever heard of Title I funding? Ever heard of Title I? You know what Title I is? That's money that the federal government gives to low-income schools to improve reading and writing. So here's my question. If Hempstead Schools gets federal dollars for reading and math, why your child got to go to special ed to get extra help? If you got Title I dollars, why you need special ed dollars? Why can't my son get a tutor from the Title I money? Why can't my daughter get a tutor from the Title I money? You got Title I money. You know why? Because none of y'all ever asked the school what they doing with the Title I money. You want to know why? Because all the Title I money going to the football team for new uniforms. And the Title I money going to go into the gym to give the basketball team a new floor. And the Title I money going to go to give the teachers a nice luncheon before Christmas break. And another nice luncheon before Easter break. And another nice luncheon before summer break. And to give the principal a new HD TV in his office. That's where all the Title I money is going. I have never seen a black parent ask a principal, what are you doing with the Title I money? Because you got too many black boys in special ed in this school. It don't make no sense when you got all that Title I money. Oh yes. Oh yes. And by the way, if your child got reading problems, all they need is a tutor. Your daughter got math problems, all she needs is a tutor. If my daughter got reading problems, right? Knowing what I know about special ed, ain't nothing special. You know what I'm gonna get my daughter? I'm gonna go find me a retired teacher in Hempstead. We got any retired teachers out here today? Retired? Any retired teachers? Not yet, but y'all got them. Black retired teachers all around Hempstead with nothing to do, living off their retirement. Go to the church, find a retired teacher, and ask the retired teacher, will you tutor my son 3 days a week for 1 hour? That's all you need. No special ed. That's it. I'm gonna say it again. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 1 hour in July and August, and when they go back to school in September, they might be above grade level. That's it. What you need special ed for? You really think the special ed kids are getting extra help? You really believe that? Nope. Have you ever been in a special ed class? It's a damn zoo. Why would you put your kids in it? And let me tell you something else. Don't you ever let them evaluate your children for emotions and behaviors. If the school ever says, your son is having behavior problems, can we test them for behavior problems? He's having emotional problems. He's very, can we test Raheem? Hell no. Don't ever let them test for emotions and behaviors. Why? Why not, Doc? Because there's only one special ed disability that addresses emotions and behaviors. Do you know what it is? ED. What is that? Emotional disturbance, sometimes called serious emotional disturbance. And you don't ever want your son diagnosed with that. Do you know what that label means? That means he's going to jail when he grows up. That's what that means. How do you know they're going to diagnose him with emotional? Because they tell you, behavior. The only special ed label that deals with behavior is emotional disturbance. So soon when you hear the word behavior, say no. Yes, right. And the problem is a lot of black parents don't feel comfortable saying no to white folks. Can I be honest? I'm just being honest. When you call me up to help you, the first thing I ask you, what's my first question on the phone? Why did you let him get tested in the first place, right? That's the first. Why was he tested in the first? And you say, because they asked me to. So somebody asked your ass to go jump in a river, you would do that too? Learn how to say no. So if they ask me why they can't test my son, I'm gonna tell them, you know why you can't test my son? Let me tell you why you can't test Umar. 5th grade Umar. You know why? Because Umar was suspended 2 days a week, every week since school started. Do you know what that means? Out of 180 school days, my son missed the equivalent of 5 weeks of instruction. That's why he can't read. Because y'all never leave him in the classroom long enough to learn how. Let me keep on going. When Umar was in 4th grade last year, his teacher was a first-year teacher out of We Hate Black Boys Teachers College. She could barely read her damn self. Nobody learned in my son's classroom. You want me to keep going? Let's go to 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, my son's teacher, Mrs. Slurbanowski, went out on maternity leave in January, and my son had 25 substitute teachers from January to June. So you know what this is? This ain't no learning disability. This is an instructional disability. It's your fault. So what you're gonna do for my son See, you're not going to do my son like you do all these other black boys. I'm a parent who cares. And I'm a parent that's concerned. And I'm a parent that's involved. You're going to dig in your Title I budget, and you're going to pay for my son to get some tutoring, and you will never again in your life bring up the word special ed to me. God bless you. Let me explain something. When you go to the school, you have to go in with an alpha energy. If you go in there being all nice and cute and soft, they will run over you. They don't respect black parents. You got to make them respect you. See, every school in New York got a black parent list. It's only 10 names on it. 500 kids in the school. Only 10 names on the list. That's right. You know why it's only 10 names on the list? Because there's only 10 black parents in that school who really about the job of being good parents. And guess what? The school don't call them parents. They don't bother them. Ain't no special ed, ain't no ADHD, ain't no Ritalin, ain't no suspension. You know why? Because if you suspend that boy right there, that mother will show up with 30 of her girlfriends and turn this place out. Oh yeah. You want the school to have a little bit of fear of your presence. You want that principal to fear you walking in. You follow me? Don't be one of them black parents who only show up when somebody curse at your child. Or to pay for the class trip. See, I'm going to give you 4 don'ts that you don't need to do. The first thing that you don't do is you don't go to schools by yourself. Take somebody with you. Because they'll bring a black mother into the school. And they'll sit a black mother down. I'm good? You sure? You ready to break? Okay. 10 minutes. Or it said you didn't caught the African Holy Ghost, my G. This time, you said 30 minutes at a time. All right. In my 10 minutes. And I'll be back, right? I'll be back. All right. They'll bring a black mother into the school. All y'all mothers have been through this, right? You go to the school to talk about Raheem's behavior, right? Now, what they're not going to tell you is that teacher picking on your son. What they're not going to tell you, that teacher called him names. What they're not going to tell you is that teacher be pushing the buttons to set him off because they know that you didn't teach him emotional control at home. Black boys must learn emotional discipline or the public schools will lynch them. I'm going to say it again. Black boys must learn emotional discipline or the public schools will lynch them. Black boys must learn emotional discipline or the public schools will lynch them. And by the way, what's the most important job of a black parent in Long Island? To teach your child discipline. And what is Dr. Umar Johnson's definition of discipline? Listen to me. It is the ability for your child to do what needs to be done when it gotta be done because it has to be done whether they like it or not. Does your child have that? Does your daughter have the ability to turn off the TV, put down the cell phone, turn off the radio, sit down and study for next week's test? Does your son have the ability, put down the football, put down the basketball, get off of Instagram, sit down and read that book? Can your child bring their whole mind, body, and soul under the control of their divine will? If they cannot do that, these white folks in Hempstead, well, I was about to call it Lynchstead. Dang. Lynchstead, Lynchstead, New York. Now, my black mothers, in my final 5, I'm coming for my barbecue. We ready? I'm coming for my plate. Black mothers, I want to thank y'all for doing a good job raising our boys because of the war against black men that's sending us to prison and to the cemetery. So brothers, give all the sisters a hand for doing a good job raising our babies. But I do want to say this to some black women here. I don't know none of y'all personally because it's my first time to Hempstead. But I know it's a few of you out there who's spoiling your son rotten. And I am here to tell you that you are destroying another person's daughter's life. Because a spoiled black boy is no good to nobody, especially the woman whose life he's going to mess up. So black women, I'm asking you, I'm begging you mothers, stop loving him and start raising him, please. Because black women keep saying they're looking for a good black man. But you're not raising no good black man. You want a man that's hardworking, but your son don't work at all. You want a man that respects black women, but your son don't respect black women at all. You want a man that keeps his word, your son never keeps his word. How is the universe going to send to you something that you're not even putting out yourself? What I'm saying to some black mothers, because I know most of them do an excellent job, I'm saying that some of you are raising your son to be the exact type of man that you would never want to marry yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. I run across spoiled black boys every day. You can't spoil no black boy. Don't you know you got to work twice as hard to get half as much? Do you know what them devils did to me when I was working on my doctorate? They kicked me out the program, had to fight to get back in. They tried to sabotage my dissertation. Somebody sent them to YouTube and it was really over. They saw me on that cool Roland Martin show. Oh, Daffy Duck sounding that. But anyway, as I wrap up this segment, because I'm coming back, and I'm going to do a segment just for the ladies today called For Sisters Only. I'm going to do that today. So ladies, you don't want to leave. In fact, I'm going to leave it up to Aura if she want me to do that in my next segment or my last segment. Aurora, the next segment or the last segment. But let me close with a quote. I'm going to close them with a quote. There was a black man named Booker T. Washington. He was born a slave in West Virginia. He walked to Hampton, Virginia because he wanted to get an education. He showed up at Hampton Institute in Virginia, and he didn't have no money to pay his way through college. So he went to the principal of Hampton and said, "Can I work my way through Hampton?" He was given an opportunity to work his way through Hampton, and when he graduated, a former slave in Alabama had an idea for an agricultural and industrial school for black men and women. And so he called the principal of Hampton, and the principal told Booker T, "There's a job in Tuskegee. Do you want it?" He said, "Hell yeah." Booker T went to Tuskegee, and when he got there, there was no school. So he had to use a barn, an old shed. He had no school. When the first class of students came to Tuskegee, they said, "Booker T, where's my lecture hall? Where's the dorm? Where's the bathroom? Where's the lunchroom?" And Booker T. Washington, the father of black self-reliance, said, "You're standing on it." And Booker T. Washington made the students roll up their sleeves. If you don't believe me, read up from slavery. And the students of Tuskegee built their own schools, made their own bricks, made their own clothes, cooked their own food. And then he said, "I need a science teacher." He heard of a black man, the first of his race to get a PhD in agricultural science from Iowa, named George Washington Carver. And he said, "Hey, George, I know you're the #1 scientist in America, not black, period." And all these companies was offering George Washington Carver, another black man born in slavery, they was offering him big contracts to come and work for the pharmaceutical industry and the military industry. And George Washington Carver, a black man who was castrated as a child. White folks removed his reproductive organ because they was afraid he would want to touch their daughter. And that's why George Washington Carver never had children. And that's why George Washington Carver had a high-pitched voice, because the testosterone was low in his body. And George Washington Carver turned down all the big jobs and came on down to Tuskegee. And when he got to Tuskegee, he looked at Booker T. Washington and he said, Booker T, where's my dormitory? Where's my apartment? Where's my lab? And Booker T looked at the other black man born in slavery and said, George, all you see is what we have. And that black man, George Washington Carver, didn't cry, didn't moan, didn't complain. He walked to the trash dump. He walked to the trash dump. And when he got to the trash, he took out copper, tin, iron, aluminum, wood, paper from the trash of the students of Tuskegee. And from the trash of the students of Tuskegee, he gave you more than 500 products from the peanut. From the trash of Tuskegee, he gave you more than 300 products from the sweet potato. From the trash of Tuskegee, he gave you more than 200 products from the soybean. So as I leave you in this first section, New York, I got a quick question. As we come up on 400 years of being in America, since the beginning of slavery, we were here before, but the beginning of British North American slavery was 1619 to 2019. That means on Nat Turner Day, August the 21st, we go into our 5th century. Can I ask you a question? How did our ancestors have nothing and make everything? You have everything and you have made nothing. Black power, New York.